This is a non-smoking theater, so please, no smoking. For the enjoyment of others, please refrain from conversation during the feature presentation. At this time, please turn off all cell phones and pagers. And remember, no one has the right to touch you in your bathing suit area.
Welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Second rule of Fight Club, you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out, fight is over. Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first time at Fight Club, you have to fight.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
There are few things in life that I enjoy more than putting on one of my favorite movies and watching my two sons appear uninterested, bored, and then eventually the laptops are put away and they become so engrossed in the movie that I get to experience the film all over again through their eyes. It is one of those rites of passage that we as humans enjoy so much. It's why we take our kids to Disneyland. It's why we share the things that we know and the knowledge that we have. And one of the big touchstones in my life, obviously, if you're listening to this show, is movies. So being able to share the movies that I really enjoy, and movies are, like I've always said, they're like friends. They're snapshots in time that you get to experience again and again. And oh my gosh, last night we had a full day. I had all kinds of things to do. Rachel's gone at Stagecoach, and I've been working on this art project for the upcoming Back to the Future Time After Time Popzilla art show. And one of the things I like to do, I've always said, is some people put on music, I put on movies, and I can work on things and enjoy the movie since I've seen it so many times. The difference with this film was that I had to put down the project because the movie is so good, and the movie basically smacks you around and throws you back in your seat and makes you watch it. You are held prisoner by a movie like this. And everybody knows they have a handful of movies that do that. For a lot of people, and myself included, it's Shawshank Redemption. But Fight Club is one of those anomalies, a big studio picture that manages to be subversive and different and feel like the world's most expensive independent film. This is the kind of movie that Chris Gore and Film Threat would have made back in the day. He would have discovered Fight Club on a dusty used bookstore shelf, called the author, and made a deal over the phone. And instead, Fight Club became a massive 20th Century Fox production, with a budget well over $100 million and starring two of the hottest actors at the time, Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, and then Helena Bonham Carter. And this is a time right before the internet really took off. The internet was there. I was online for the first time in '98. I had web TV, very cool, very chic, with a wireless keyboard. Thank you. And this is before the internet, so there were not a lot of ways to spoil a movie. You were stuck with Entertainment Tonight, Entertainment Weekly, Film Threat, Premiere Magazine, those sorts of things. And most of the magazines that I read were about how the effects were done, Cinefex, Cinefantastics, and they all dealt with either movies that were just coming out or movies that had already come and gone. And there wasn't a lot of coverage of bizarre movies like Fight Club. Now, I know that the mainstream media did cover it, but they didn't know what to make of it. And the trailers won't help you out. So I have to be honest when I say that Fight Club was not on my radar. 99 was the year of The Matrix and Phantom Menace. Nothing else mattered. We were still in the throes of our yet to be spoiled love affair with Star Wars. You know, by the time Fight Club came out, Phantom Menace was either just coming out on VHS or about to end its theatrical run, and it dominated. It was the number one film. It crushed everything in its path. And so on a date night out with Rachel, going to the movies, this is 1999, Luke was 2. He would turn 3 that coming January. So I was the father of a young child. My mom's 3 years since she passed on. So this is a film, and I know I'm lucky when I say this. This is a film that I went in blind. I had no idea what the plot of Fight Club was. In fact, when we went out to the theater that night, Rachel and myself, we weren't going to see Fight Club. My wife wouldn't see a movie like this. All of the commercials were bewildering. They showed soap. Some of them showed people beating the living tar out of each other. But none of them had any idea how to portray what this movie was about. So we went to see a film called The Bone Collector. Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, serial killer movie. Totally forgettable. Just not a movie of any merit. Just another movie clogging up the screens at your local multiplex. And when I say clogging up the screens, when we got to the theater, Bone Collector was sold out. So we weren't able to see Bone Collector. And when you have a 2-year-old at home and a sitter and a night out, you don't go back home. You don't cancel. You can go somewhere with your new mom, and Rachel was a new mom with a 2-year-old. Austin's still a year away. You could go somewhere and stare at the walls and still have a good time because you're not being bombarded by the needs of that 2-year-old. So at the box office, we hemmed and hawed, and I said, look, there's only one other movie starting at this time, because we didn't want to wait 30, 40 minutes. So we bought tickets to see Fight Club. Now, my wife didn't enjoy this movie. It's not a movie for her. It's not. She didn't understand it. It made no sense to her. She was angry that we had traipsed off to see this thing. And it's weird because as the film unspooled, and yes, it unspooled. This is before digital cinema. I was enraptured by it. I was taken away by the craftsmanship and the making of it and the message of it and the sheer bravado on display on the screen. This is a totally different time. First off, the director, David Fincher, he had come right out of the gate with Alien 3, a movie that really divides people, even to this day. You either love Alien 3 or you hate Alien 3. And you know what? I've not seen the film in a long time, so it is hard for me to do any kind of review in depth about Alien 3. I can tell you that when Alien 3 came into theaters that summer, opening day, of course I went after the unbelievable impact of Aliens. Alien 3 was going to be a slam dunk, and the trailer for Alien 3 was great because it showed the aliens were going to come to Earth, and it was going to be a big mega battle, and guess what? It's not. And I think for those of us that saw Alien 3 in the theater, the biggest issue we had with it was simply that it's not a bad movie, but it's not the movie we were promised. So a lot of people, including myself, we just left angry. angry at what we had seen on the screen. Like, that wasn't the movie promised to us. You know? That's not what the trailer said was going to happen in the movie. They didn't get to Earth. It was a bunch of shaved head prisoners who were monks. I mean, it was really bizarre. And I know that a lot has been written about Alien 3, and that Fincher tried to make, you know, his own stamp on it. He didn't simply want to copy what James Cameron had did, which is a good thing, because Cameron is Cameron. You don't copy James Cameron, and if you try, you get Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, Jonathan Mostow. But the director, David Fincher, first-time director, he was bullied by the studio. That's the way it goes. They love to bring up-and-coming directors off of the indie scene, or, in Fincher's case, the music video director scene. You know, Express Yourself and Cradle of Love by Billy Idol. They love to give him either big movies or the double whammy, the big movie / movie franchise, Aliens. You know, we're going to give you the Alien franchise. Who would say no to that? Nobody. I don't know how to direct a movie, but I would, if they offer me an Alien franchise, yes, of course I can direct it. Which way? So Fox bullied him, and that's why the movie is the way it is. But Fincher would really come into his own 1995 with Seven. And again, I dragged my wife off to see Seven, and I won't go into a full Seven review. That deserves its own show. But you leave the theater at Seven, you leave the theater feeling sick. Like, all the hope and happiness and light has been sucked from your body. And that's what the movie's designed to do, and that means it's working. And Seven was a revelation in cinema. You know, here was a horror movie, serial killer horror movie, which we thought had been perfected with Silence of the Lambs. And instead, Seven never shows you the violence. We only see the aftermath. And, sorry, my phone's going off. And the aftermath and what we project with our imaginations is 10 times as worse, or worse, 10 times worse than anything they could put on the screen. If they put on the screen the actual killings in Seven, first off, it would be rated NC-17. And second off, we would laugh at it, because it would be over the top. So, wisely, we only see John Doe's aftermath, not in the midst of it. But Seven began a weird split in Hollywood with fans and me, because Brad Pitt had come up as a pretty boy in Thelma and Louise, and then as Tristan in A River Runs Through It with his long flowing hair, and Legends of the Fall, and he had made what, Cool World, and what's the Johnny movie that he made, Johnny Suede, something like that. And all of us normal looking guys, and that is everyone who's not Brad Pitt, we were hell-bent on not liking this guy simply because he was good-looking. We didn't want to like him. Meet Joe Black. All the movies that he was in, we didn't want to like him. He's too good-looking. He's too perfect. Dumb him down. Ugly him up. Do something. And here he is in Seven, giving a multi-layered, believable, fantastic performance. And the whole time I'm like, I don't want to like this guy. I've got a bias. I don't want to like Brad Pitt. And yet, I'm enjoying the hell out of his performance. So it is. Now, Fincher's next movie is a personal favorite of mine. Not a lot of people saw it when it came out. I saw it in a theater and fell head over heels for The Game with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. Again, it needs its own podcast. The Game, if you've never seen The Game, and odds are you probably haven't. I know the diehards will go, of course we've seen The Game, Jeff. But there will be a lot of you out there who have not. Because it didn't make a big impact the way Seven did. The way Fight Club did. The Game is simply a well-crafted thriller starring Michael Douglas, who is the perfect guy for these movies. Michael Douglas is at his best when everybody's trying to get him. Women are trying to use him, men are trying to whatever it is, trying to kill him, whatever. And the game puts it all on its ear. What a crazy, fantastic movie. So a couple years later, Fincher's got Fight Club. And I had followed this director. He had made such a mark. By this time, Alien 3, 7, Game, Fight Club. We're at movie 4. So at movie 4, if you've arrived in Hollywood, you're able to consistently deliver movies on budget, on time, and they're good, you can call the shots. How they put the deal together for Fight Club, I have no idea. Because after the movie, I read the book. The book, Chuck Palahniuk's book, I'm insanely jealous of it because he tells this massive story in just over 200 pages. The economy of words is staggering. Like, you cannot believe how quickly he gets the ideas across. And the ideas on display in Fight Club are immense. Fight Club should be a Game of Thrones size book, and yet it isn't. It's not daunting. You could read it in one sitting like I did. So, Rachel and I are standing there, buying our tickets for Fight Club. I have no idea what the film is about. We go in, and when the lights dim and the movie starts, again, it's a bizarre movie because it opens and the movie is an essay on the dangers of commercialization. Everything in the movie is branded. IKEA, Starbucks, Krispy Kreme, Apple, Volkswagen, Gucci, you name it. And the lead character, who is never given a formal name, we know him as alternately Cornelius Rupert. This is the Edward Norton character. He is suffering from insomnia. He cannot sleep. He claims he hasn't slept in 6 months. And at the beginning, it just sounds like hyperbole. Like, this guy's he's just exaggerating so that we'll feel sorry for him. You can't go 6 months without sleeping. And even his doctor's like, I'm not giving you anything. What you need is pure, unfiltered, natural sleep. So just go find it. Put a movie on, sit in front of the TV. He doesn't say this, but you get the idea. Just go to sleep. And this guy can't. He's got a dead-end job. You know what? I take that back. His job is not dead-end. His job is deadening. There's a difference. Dead-end means you have no future, no hope. Deadening means, and in the case of Fight Club, the work that he's doing is so vile and evil. No wonder he can't live with himself. No wonder he can't sleep. No wonder he doesn't want to shut his eyes. How many people has he doomed to death? You find this out a few, later in the movie. It's not all presented at once. You're given the insomnia and then the path out of insomnia, and then you're given the reasons why the insomnia was there in the first place. You find out he works for one of the major car manufacturers, and his job is to go out and see when a car has some sort of failure and find out what happened, what the probable settlement will be, and how many cars on the road are going to have that problem. And if the dollar amount for the settlements is cheaper than actually issuing a recall, they won't do the recall. So he's basically condemning strangers to their death. All for money. It is the real life version of the push the button and somebody you don't know will die and you will get $10,000 from Twilight Zone. Right? Or the Richard Kelly remake the other couple years back, The Button or whatever it was called, that bombed tragically. But he's haunted And he never really specifically says it, but how could you not be? You know, they're shown, you're shown teenagers' braces in the back seat, and the father's shirt has melted to the front seat of the burned car because of his fat. And it's all presented like a coroner scene in a movie. Matter of factly, no one has any sadness in their lives for this. It's just another day at the office, and people have died. So, how our main character decides to cope with his insomnia is he attends a cancer support group. And that turns into lots of support groups, one a night, where when he shows up, these people are all so tragic and terminal for the most part, terminal, that when he doesn't speak, they assume that he's got whatever he has is worse than they've got, because he can't even talk about it. So he's welcomed in, and he's hugged, and he's loved. And this soulless machine who sends people to their deaths via their car, who has no one in his life, is given a chance to find some sort of arms to put around him, to find some love in this world. And then he's able to sleep. That's all he needed was human contact. Did anybody get that message at a Fight Club? That he only needed human contact to go to sleep? And when he sees Helena Bonham Carter's character Marla Singer sitting across the way, he can't do it anymore because she's faking too. She shows up at testicular cancer, which obviously is not going to be applicable there. And he grows to hate her so much that he's back to not sleeping. His insomnia returns with a vengeance. And he says a really good line where he says, Marla Singer, she's that sore at the roof of your mouth that would heal if only you could stop tonguing it. That's exactly what Marla Singer is. She is the irritant in the oyster that's going to make a pearl, you know? And he finally confronts her and tells her she can't be here. She's ruining it for him. And she says one of my favorite lines in the movie where she says, I saw you practicing telling me off. How's it going? And it's just such a real moment because who hasn't... now, listen, I don't like the movie scenes where somebody stands in front of a mirror and practices saying hello. That is so fake. Nobody in the history of the world has ever done that for real. If they've done it, they saw it in a movie first. Nobody has ever practiced saying hello in a mirror. It's just stupid. And thankfully, that's not in this movie. He's just muttering to himself in the corner, and she's watching him. But I love that he has been practicing in his head, and she calls him on. It's a brilliant scene. So they decide to divvy up the support classes, and some take some days and some take others, right? As we were watching it, I was explaining to my kids, you can't just have two characters talking to each other. Talking head scenes are movie death, because we're just talking. You've got to keep the action going. You've got to give them something to do, you know? So this is all played out as Marla walks into a laundromat, takes 3 or 4 pairs of jeans out of a dryer, leaves, goes across the street to where they buy jeans and sells them. They're not her pants. It's very briefly remarked on. It is a brilliant way to get the information across and also tell us who Marla Singer is. And Marla Singer is scrappy. She is a she's a survivor. She won't let anything get her down, which is perfect because she's going to be put to the test by dealing with our main character and his soon-to-be best friend, Tyler Durden. So what happens is, and you've seen the movie, but it's fun to reminisce, isn't it? As we're treated to what he does for a living, we're being shown again and again how he's flying here, flying there, lose an hour, gain an hour, single-serving food, the single-serving cordon bleu meal kit. Pay close attention when he's in the hotel room and he's watching the television. On the far right, you'll see Brad Pitt dressed as he is in his white serving uniform from the Pressman Hotel that you'll come into play later. But as he's going from city to city and place to place and nightmare to nightmare with these car accidents, you see Tyler Durden for the first real time. You do see him before in flashes, but you see him for the first time on the escalator. And he says, if you wake up in a different town in a different time, could you wake up as somebody else? And then finally we meet Tyler Durden. Now, in the movie, we meet him on the airplane, and he's described as his single-serving friend, to which Tyler replies, "Oh, I get it. It's very clever." How's that working out for you, being clever? That's working good. You should keep it up then. I've been accused of that a lot. How's that working out, that clever thing, Jeff? It's about 70-30. Right? It's about 70-30. But we're instantly drawn to Tyler Durden. First, he's good looking. It's Brad Pitt, after all. And it's Brad Pitt almost at the height of his coolness. This is him on coolness overload. You know, the leather jacket. I remarked as we were watching it last night that, does it look like Johnny Knoxville watched Fight Club and basically said, I'm just going to be that guy? You know, the yellow or red tinted glasses, the leather jacket. I mean, it's all very Johnny Knoxville. But before Knoxville, there was Tyler Durden. He makes and sells soap, the Paper Street Soap Company. And our narrator remarks that they have the same briefcase. So when they land back in Los Angeles, or New York, is it ever really said where the film takes place? I assume it's Los Angeles, but I don't know. Only because nobody ever has that stereotypical accent, except maybe Lou. But we'll meet Lou later. But you'll see Tyler Durden get in a red sports car and drive off. And if you pay close attention, you'll see the owner of the car run after him, shaking his fist. It's very Tyler Durden-ish. And it just goes even further to make us like him. Because Tyler Durden is everything we want to be. He's good looking. He knows the answer to all the questions, sometimes before you even ask it. He's fearless, and that might be his greatest quality. Tyler Durden is fearless. Tyler Durden is the id run wild, with no restrictions. So when our narrator gets home and finds out that his apartment has blown up with all his IKEA furnishings, the only thing he can think of to do is to call the guy he met on the plane, Tyler Durden. He's not even sure why he's calling. And we, the audience, are not sure why he's calling. Because remember, I saw this movie blind. I don't know what the plot is. I've not read the book. I have no idea when I'm first seeing this. So it just looks like they had a chance meeting on a plane. He knew he was in town. Our narrator has lost his luggage and his apartment. So by the time he gets back, to L.A., he has nothing but his briefcase. It's all gone. What does Tyler Durden say? It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. So they have a few beers. They talk, they shoot the breeze. And in another really good exchange, you can tell the narrator is angling for a place to stay. And Durden says, 3 pitchers of beer and you can't even ask. What do you mean? Ask me. You need a place to stay? Ask me. Really? Ask me. Can I stay at your place? Sure. It's like, it's such a fun, controlling moment, but it's also Durden pushing the narrator, pushing him to be more than he is, So the way he wants him to pay him back for staying the night is the key line of the movie, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. How do you know anything about yourself if you've never been in a fight? So, he hits him in the ear, and then Durden socks him in the stomach. Then they brawl a little bit. Then they have a beer. And Tyler takes him home to the house on Paper Street. Now, I've watched the making of Fight Club. I know that the house on Paper Street doesn't really exist. It's a set. But as weird as it sounds, the place is a dump. You know, the power box has to be turned off by hand with a shower of sparks every time it rains. There's water. There's filth. I would move into the house on Paper Street tomorrow. You know, the house that I lived in on Beach Boulevard, which I'm going to do an episode about, I promise. When we first found it, it was a lot like the house on Paper Street. So maybe seeing the movie was like, oh my God, this old house that they're going to... Because, you know, any place that you move to is alien, whether it's clean or new, old, or whatever. But after about 2 or 3 weeks, it's just home. You finally made it your own, you know? And that's just how we humans are. So I can imagine moving into the house on Paper Street and after a month being perfectly at home in its filth. And, you know, I'd clean it up, obviously. I wouldn't live in filth. I'm not like that. But there is something freeing. Like, they don't pay any rent on it. Who knows, right? So they go about living together. And what happens is that these two sort of become like a couple. And for a movie that's marketed as the ultimate in machismo and male bravado and everything that we... I mean, the movie was marketed as the cinema equivalent of Axe body spray. But it isn't. And that's the weird thing. You ask somebody who's never seen Fight Club, hey, what's that movie about? Oh, it's about guys who beat each other up. It's ridiculous. Axe body spray. You're like, you've not seen the movie. It's about a pseudo-gay couple who decide to invent a club where everybody rolls around with each other and smacks each other around. Chuck Palahniuk it came out as gay. Not that it's a big deal, but it's weird to think like the anthem movie for straight, dumb college kids with their, putting a poster up of Tyler Durden across the nation for 10 plus years is a gay man. The guy wrote it's gay. I think that's fantastic. I think that goes to show you that you cannot judge anything until you know everything about it. You can't just make a snap judgment. I've seen Fight Club 30 times or more. When my friend Trent found out I didn't own the DVD, we were talking about it, he said, let's get in the car. He took me out that night and bought it and made sure that I had it. Now I have it on Blu-ray. Which is weird because I think the movie actually plays better on DVD because the Blu-ray's too clear. There are things that happen in the film that are made to be seen subliminally, and on the Blu-ray they're just too darn clear. Like there's no subtlety at all. There's no haze. Real film has a haze. So in addition to starting Fight Club, Tyler also works as a projectionist at a movie theater where he splices in one frame of genitals into children's movies. He works at the Pressman Hotel where he pees in the soup. And he's just an all-around menace to society in his own guerrilla warfare way. And yet we like him because it's Brad Pitt. If they had cast a not-so-good-looking guy as Tyler Durden, I don't think the movie would have done as well or lasted as long or been as important. Pitt's looks anchor the film in a way that's hard to describe because women like him, men are not drawn to him, but we're aware that he's better looking than us, and we want to be him. We strive to be that cool. You know, when I did the Rocky Horror Show, I likened Rocky Frankenfurter to James Bond, and I think it's applicable here. You know, Tyler Durden is James Bond just cocks his gun and walks into the club and starts firing. Tyler Durden's the same way in his own way. So when they start setting up Fight Club, he's in charge of it, and the narrator goes along for the ride. And we get the showpiece scene where Brad Pitt's giving the rules of Fight Club, and more than just the rules of Fight Club, we're told what it is. And the message of this part of the movie is that the young men of the 90s, those of us who grew up and came of age in the 90s, Polyanek nailed it because it's all from the book. We were all raised by women. Our fathers were absent. He says, if we view our fathers as gods, what happens when our fathers desert us? It means that God does not like us. It's a strong statement. It's a very strong statement. And as a guy who grew up without a father, I don't totally agree with it, but I get the sentiment. I do get it. You know, and in the 90s there was nothing, there was no patriotism, there was no war to fight. America bombed from afar. We were the internet was burgeoning, was blooming, and we were becoming mindless consumers. And Tyler's against all of that. You know, let's stop evolving. Let the chips fall where they may. And it was and remains a compelling message of anti-corporation, anti-establishment. And, you know, and to that end, in addition to Tyler starting a relationship with Marla, much to our narrator's chagrin. Our narrator can't stand her, and yet Tyler keeps having sex with her for hours and hours. Fight Club evolves into Project Mayhem, and it evolves in a way that it's actually very brilliant because the space that they're using for Fight Club is under this bar, Lou's bar. So Lou and his goon come in, and Lou's like, I'm effing Lou, and I didn't give permission. So Brad, Tyler Durden, picks a fight with him and loses, and gets beat bloody. And then turns the tables on Lou in a disgusting display. The makeup by Rob Bottin is fantastic in this movie because it looks real. The blood is so dark and black. It's so disgusting. Thankfully, it's in small enough spurts as to remain or to retain its shock value. So after that event, and Lou leaves, like, take the place. I don't want it. This guy's crazy. Durden tells everybody to go pick a fight and lose. And it's difficult because most people will do, like he says in the movie, most people will do anything to get out of a fight. So it's a very hard homework lesson, task. But it creates Project Mayhem. And then we're shown multiple people trying to pick a fight and losing. And then our narrator picks a fight with his boss, and even though his boss doesn't lay a finger, our narrator still loses by beating himself up. And then walking out of the office with equipment and a steady paycheck as long as he doesn't tell the Transportation Safety Board what he knows about the recall situation on cars. So now they're able to do Fight Club 7 days a week, but it's already morphed into Project Mayhem. So our narrator discovers that in addition to having sex with Marla again and again and again, Tyler's building bunk beds in the basement. And before you know it, there's a guy on the porch and another. Meatloaf shows up on the porch. Now, we had met Meatloaf in the Men Remaining Men Testicular Cancer Society meetup. You know, Bob. Bob, who eats donuts and has breasts because of his estrogen levels. So Bob joins Project Mayhem. And we're not really sure what Mayhem is, except that our narrator and we, the audience, are being kept in the dark by Tyler Durden. And our first indication is we're shown a building that's been set on fire and made to look like a happy face, with a really fun cameo by my favorite newscaster of all time, Lauren Sanchez. Wow, Lauren Sanchez. I have an autographed picture of Lauren Sanchez on my wall. No kidding. My wife got it for me for Valentine's Day. But we're watching Tyler become more involved in Project Mayhem and less involved in the narrator's life, i.e., we the audience. Now, we the audience love Tyler. He's everything we want to be. So when he withdraws from both of us, we feel as empty as the narrator. His scenes become fewer and fewer. It's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. And it culminates in Meatloaf getting shot and killed while they're trying to blow up a big sculpture, and they roll it into a Starbucks. It's not named a Starbucks, but you get the idea. But Meatloaf is dead, and they're going to bury him out in the garden. But our narrator freaks out. It's like, this is a real man. You can't just put him in the garden. This guy's name is Robert Paulson. And that becomes, in a very strange but illuminating scene, a mantra. His name is, in death we have a name. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. And they chant it. And the narrator thinks that they're just mocking him. And he's very upset about it. So we're left with this. These things are spiraling out of control. Marla shows up. And Marla, the love triangle of Marla, the narrator, and Tyler is very complicated. And the narrator is very upset because Tyler keeps telling him he can't talk to Marla about anything about Tyler's business. Tyler wants to be kept out of it. He's having sex with her, and that's it. It's nothing personal. And the narrator's still more human than that. So he's watching this girl that he doesn't really like having sex with his best friend, and yet they can't talk about it. They can't get these issues out in the open. So he just keeps getting more and more frustrated with Marla, who, other than her weirdness, seems like a nice person. And what's she doing mixed up with these two whack jobs? Project Mayhem continues. The Paper Street Soap Company gets bigger and bigger, and they're making soap all day. And the gimmick is they're making soap out of human fat that they've stolen from a liposuction clinic. The richest, creamiest fat known to man. Tyler says they're selling rich old ladies their own asses to wash with. It is a brilliant sequence. There's a fantastic scene where Tyler makes him promise not to talk about him to Marla. 3 times he promises. And then to seal the deal, a few scenes later, he puts a chemical burn of a kiss on his hand. It's the modern day equivalent of becoming blood brothers. Remember blood brothers? You ever do that with your friend? You prick a finger and you rub your blood together and you're solid, man. We're blood brothers, man. Well, for Fight Club, it's much harsher. It's a chemical burn. That's where he says it's only after you've lost everything that you're free to do anything. I love the scene where the narrator's trying to think of cold and a forest, and Tyler just keeps smacking him. The greatest moment of your life is happening. You're a million miles away. It's brilliant acting, editing, and filmmaking all in one. And into the picture comes the soon-to-be Joker himself, Jared Leto, playing, I think his name is Pretty Boy. He's never given a name. He's blonde. He's good-looking. And our narrator is instantly jealous. So when Tyler decides to take on the district attorney who's going to mount a full-scale investigation into Project Mayhem, because they've blown up stores, they've beat up cars with bats, they've set pigeons to crap all over car lots. It's time to take a stand, right? Well, Tyler's not having any of it. So they kidnap the guy at a banquet and threaten to remove his testicles with a knife and a rubber band. And our narrator is left standing there as Tyler Durden runs off with Jared Leto. And the kicker is that Leto's got the chemical burn on his hand, and the narrator thinks he's been replaced with this prettier, younger model, and he's not happy. So the next time they have Fight Club, he beats this man to a pulp, beats him senseless. One of my absolute favorite lines in the movie. I wanted to dump oil on all those French beaches I'd never see. I wanted to breathe smoke. And when Tyler asks him what happened, the narrator says, I wanted to destroy something beautiful. And that's what he did. Because when you see Leto the rest of the movie, he's completely disfigured. He's been beaten ugly. He's completely changed. So the movie continues. And here's the thing. When you're watching it for the first time, and this happened to me in the theater, and I'm watching it through my boy's eyes last night, you don't know where the movie's going. The Fight Club cannot be put in a box. It is not predictable. Anybody who tells you they predicted that twist that's coming up, I'm telling you they're lying. I had no idea what was going to happen. And what happens is Tyler and the gang get into a car. They drive off in the rain, and our narrator finally has it out with Tyler. These are the first real harsh words they've had the whole movie. He hates being cut out of things. Why is he not being told? And Tyler's like, you decide your level of commitment. Truer words were never spoken when you find out what the twist is. And then the car goes off the side of the freeway, hits a parked car, and careens down an embankment. And our narrator ends up back at the house on Paper Street in bed, and Tyler walks out on him. He walks out on us. He is gone. And our narrator doesn't know what to do. Tyler Durden is gone. But what's Tyler Durden up to? So, after, we're not really given a time. I imagine it's a week of him blacking out from this accident. He finally awakens and decides to go and find out just exactly what Tyler's up to. He finds plane tickets. He takes the same trips. And everywhere he goes, he's right behind Tyler. He cannot catch up with him. He doesn't know what's going on. He can't figure out what is Tyler up to and where is he going. What we do know is that he is setting up fight clubs everywhere. Project Mayhem is everywhere. It's a massive, massive organization. And finally, our narrator finds somebody who will talk to him in a straight way. After seeing people chanting his name as Robert Paulson, and the first rule is I can't talk about it, finally somebody says, yeah, Tyler Durden was here just a couple of days ago. He was? Yes. Is this a test? No, it's not a test. Are you sure you're not testing me, sir? And the narrator's like, what's going on? The first thing you think of, now there was a line of dialogue where somebody said Tyler Durden got plastic surgery every 6 months to change his face. And you're like, did he get plastic surgery to look like the narrator? Is that the twist? God, I hope not. I've seen Face Off. This is better than Face Off. Not the show about makeup, the movie with Travolta and Cage. So he goes back to his hotel room. He calls Marla. And what does he do? He talks to Marla about Tyler. Finally, he asks the question. And when he looks up, Tyler Durden is sitting in the room with him. He shaved his head. He's all glammed up. What the hell is going on? I have to tell you, I love going to the movies. And what makes me so ecstatic when I sit in front of that darkened theater is not knowing what's going to happen next. And Fight Club is the ultimate I didn't see this coming. Spoiler alert. Tyler tells him, have you not figured it out yet? We are the same person. We've lost cabin pressure. What a brilliant twist. Our narrator doesn't have insomnia. He has a split personality. When he couldn't take his life, when he thought he was never going to make it, he created somebody who could. He created a perfect man, Tyler freaking Durden. Everything that he's not. Good looking, fearless, badass. Able to put a gun to a guy's head and make him go back to school. It's brilliant. The twist of Fight Club is so fantastic that... You ever see that Daffy Duck episode where he's trying to outdo Bugs by swallowing explosives and blowing himself up? And they're like, you know what? You're right. That's better than Bugs Bunny. He's like, yeah, but I can only do it once. That's Fight Club, baby. This twist can only be done once. And this good. The only thing that compares is Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. And everybody remembers the Zuni fetish doll running around, trying to kill her in the apartment. But it was a trilogy, and one of the other stories was a woman with a split personality who murders herself. That's pretty close. But Fight Club is miles above it. So our narrator runs back home because he himself has planned something huge and he doesn't know what it is. And when he finally puts it together, that a bunch of buildings are going to get blown up. Now, Project Mayhem's gone. They vanished. They've run off. And they're going to blow these buildings up. It must be stopped. He can't handle it. So he runs to the police station. And the one guy who might be able to do something is asked out of the room. And the three guys that are left, they're all in on it. And they're gonna remove his testicles as a show of force. And it's such a great sequence of events because it's scary. Because every single person is in on it. He's tried to get Marla out of town, not knowing that the bus driver's in on it. The cops are in on it. So he goes to the building and tries to dismantle the bomb. And there's Tyler Durden again saying, this ain't happening, IKEA boy. And they duke it out. And it's basically, he's fighting himself. He is literally battling his own inner demon. It's absolutely brilliant. And the best part about it is you can't figure out where it's going. What's going to happen in this movie? How is it going to end? I love that feeling in the theater. I love it. I love when they take you down a path and then they run the other way. That's good filmmaking. Somebody once said, if the audience is 2 steps ahead of you, you failed. Well, I was never 2 steps ahead of Fight Club. Never 2 steps ahead. I was always behind trying to catch up with what's going on the screen. And that's good filmmaking. For a guy like me, to not know what's going to happen, I was in love with this sequence of events. So finally the narrator is, theoretically he's knocked unconscious, but that's not possible. The narrator portion is knocked unconscious, but the Tyler Durden portion is still awake. And he goes up to where they're going to view the buildings going up in explosions. And that's where the film finally takes you back to the beginning. With a gun in your teeth, you only speak in vowels. And finally, we know what's going on. We know the story. It's not a hostage situation because it's one guy. And yet, thankfully, now that we know the whole story, when these two have a conversation, we're able to follow. He is arguing with himself. It is so brilliant and so well done. And then finally, the narrator is able to gain the upper hand by realizing that the gun cannot be in Tyler's hands without being in his hand. And that's where you see when the gun appears in the narrator's hand, it's the first time we ever see any weakness in Tyler, because he knows if he doesn't figure out how to fix this, he will die. The narrator will pull the trigger on himself and Tyler Durden will die. It's the solution from Looper. Instead of future self, it's other self. So he puts the gun in his mouth and shoots out the side of his cheek. Not up into his brain, but out of his mouth. And it's a symbolic gesture that when he decides it kills Tyler, it kills Tyler. And there's no question because we see the back of Tyler's head blown out. There's no question. And there he sits, bloodied and for the first time in full control of himself. So he's able to order the Project Mayhem people around because he's no longer the weak, timid narrator. He's as strong and therefore is Tyler Durden. He orders him out, and him and Marla, they watch the buildings explode as the Pixies play. The buildings going down is supposed to be everybody's credit score going down in flames too. So it's a very bizarre, obviously pre-9/11 movie. They would never do this today. Blow up a building like that and have it go down. I mean, you see the buildings go down just like 9/11, but this is 2 years prior. 2 years prior. And they're not planes, they're actual bombs in the foundations. And Tyler even says we got all the people out. There's nobody there. All the night crew was us. So there's just buildings, just records. You met me at a very strange time in my life, Marla. But you get the idea that the narrator is smart enough to get out of this, that he's not going to be jailed for this, and that him and Marla might have a chance at a relationship. Without Tyler there to... I mean, they've had sex a lot, but without Tyler's out-of-control id there to destroy it or pervert it, maybe him and Marla have a future. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. The book ends differently. The book ends with the narrator being thrown into an insane asylum and everybody in the asylum calling him sir and saying he'll be out in a few months and things will be back the way they were. So you get the idea that Project Mayhem is bigger than anybody can fathom, and it's never going away. And I know there's a sequel coming out in comic book form, it's written by Polynax, so I cannot wait. I don't know what you do with those characters now that Durden's dead, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I know there was a video game, which is stupid, because a video game goes against everything. I mean, that's everything the movie's about. Rejection of corporate sponsorship. You know, an Activision game. I mean, it's just fighting. And the movie's not about fighting. Fight Club is not referencing the guys duking it out. Fight Club is my generation, Generation X, fighting to matter. The fight in Fight Club is the fight against the society. The wimpification of you don't get to be a man anymore. You know, the older male is the endangered species. We don't count. Everybody else matters. Every other class matters because we're perceived as the oppressors. So we don't get to complain. You know? Am I getting too political? But that's Fight Club. The fight against it. Oh, sure, they're bashing each other's heads in on the ground, but that's the physical personification of the fight that they feel against society. What does he say? He might be the manager of the maitre d' at the local food court, but for 1 minute, for 10 minutes in that arena, he was a god. And that's what people want. They want to feel like they matter. You can go home, you can put on a headset and battle people in Halo, but it's not the same as the connection, the physical connection. And let me tell you, Fight Club is so well crafted that every scene involving Tyler and the narrator and Marla, they all work according to the rules of the universe. They show you flashbacks that have been redone to show you that Tyler wasn't there. We get it all. There's only one shot that I have a problem with, and that's when he's being dragged through the parking lot under the parking beam, the arm, because it physically, I don't know if that's possible. Physically, it looks like there's an invisible man there, which there isn't. He's battling himself, his own demon. So yeah, Fight Club launched 1 million dorm posters, and people watching it thinking it's about violence, and it's not. And it was maligned. It didn't do well at the box office. It's the cookie cutter representation of a cult hit, which is bizarre because it has such big stars in it. But the studio didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to market it. They certainly, I think the minute they started production, they were sorry that they had. Marla says the line from the book when she's having sex with Tyler and flops in the bed and says, "My God, I want to have your abortion." The studio said, "Well, you can't put that in a movie." So she flops down and says, "I haven't been F like that since grade school." To which the studio said, "Put the other one back." And Fincher was like, no, this is the one that's staying. So Fincher had to fight to make that movie because the studio had no idea what they were looking at. And it was a big, expensive production. And God bless them. They'll never do it again. They'll never make a movie this subversive on this big of a scale. They'll do independence and they'll do low budget. But it's hard to conjure up another example of this kind of expensive, subversive, anti-establishment movie. Fight Club is a fantastic movie. You have to watch it again and again. And it's on digital, so you're even missing part of the fun, because part of the fun of seeing it in the theater on film was when he talks about the cigarette burns, you actually see them and you notice them in the movie. The first time I'm watching it in the theater, I'm like, well, there's a cigarette burn. Is that part of the movie or is that real? I don't know. At one point, the film turns and you can see the sprockets on the side. That means he's talking to you. You are not the contents of your wallet. We are the all singing, all dancing crap of the world. You are not your effing khakis. He's telling it to you, to me, and the audience. He's breaking the fourth wall to give us the worst news of all, that we suck. But it's Tyler Durden, so it's okay. I know there's never been an official action figure or doll. Hot Toys made one. I think it was unlicensed. Beautiful doll of Tyler Durden. They probably made the narrator too, but not as exciting. But the soap, you can always see the soap around because it's, that's easy to make. But I'd love to have his coffee cup robe that Tyler Durden wears. but I think I would just look effeminate. And he doesn't. I mean, he pulls it off. It's Tyler Durden. He's the coolest cat in town. Have I said enough about how great this movie is? About how it said everything that you didn't know you needed to say? I recommend watching it again and again. I recommend reading the book. Pontiac's book is fantastic. It does differ. He doesn't meet Tyler on a plane. He meets Tyler at a nude beach. Tyler is sitting on the sand after having created a giant hand and waiting for the one perfect moment when the hand shadow is flawless. Because that's all you can hope for in a day is a perfect minute. It's a masterpiece book. I think it's better than Catcher in the Rye when it comes to illustrating the loneliness and despair of a man who's not a kid, doesn't feel like an adult, doesn't have the responsibilities of a wife and kids yet, and they're just trying to find that niche that says, I mean, that's that thing that's exclusively your own. And that's hard to do. That's hard to find. When you find that, you've found the meaning. But you got to go through fire before you get to the ice. Anyways, this episode is for my friend Cody, who said you've got to do Fight Club. And Cody was kind enough to help me out for Star Wars Celebration. They were charging $30 to park at anywhere near the convention center for Star Wars Celebration. So Cody helped me out by letting me park at his house, and he drove me there and back both times. Oh my God. Thank you, Cody. I hope you enjoy this episode of 91 Reasons. Fight Club is a fantastic movie. The reason it took me so long to do it is the movie is intimidating. It's as classic a movie as you'll find, and what do I have to say about it that's gonna matter? Hasn't everything been said? So you get my take on it, and I watched it last night, so it was fresh. You know? I'll be honest, I'd like to watch it again. I'd watch it tonight if I didn't have to go to bed and get to work tomorrow. But that's what good cinema does for you. It drags you in and doesn't let you go. And Fight Club doesn't let you go. It holds on tight, voracious, it's rabid. It holds on to you with teeth. It dares you with its violent, its spurts of violence. And it's clever dialogue. The speech that Marla gives about the bridesmaid dress, fantastic. So many of these little snippets are so clever and good. Where'd they find Chloe, the woman who looks like Meryl Streep's skeleton? Because she does. Everything in the movie is flawlessly done. It's one of those movies, there aren't a lot of them that I say, gosh, I wish I'd worked on it. I wish I'd worked on Fight Club. I wish I had. So, this episode, like I said, is for Cody. So, hope you enjoy it. Hope you dig all the episodes, the movie reviews, the snippets of my life. I'm glad that you're listening. I dropped off my art pieces today for the Popzilla Time After Time art exhibit on May 9th. You can check out all the details on our page on Facebook. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the art that I saw was fantastic. I was intimidated to bring in my measly things in there. I'm like, I can't compete. These people really know what they're doing. But I was assured, no, it's different. It's good. Okay. I believe you. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you'd like to support the show, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. Leave us a review on iTunes. We are very close to 91 episodes of 91 Reasons. I cannot believe it. Check out Q11 TV on YouTube. That's my friend Robbie's channel where he does sketch comedy. I'm actually writing a sketch for him right now, which will be a lot of fun. It's one that I did at the Groundlings. So, thanks for checking it out. Thanks for descending with us to the depths of depravity in Fight Club. You know, I do a scavenger hunt every year on my birthday called Find Club. It was named for Fight Club. That's pretty cool, right? I've been doing it since 2001. I can't believe it. My God, has it been that long? I'm doing Doc Brown again. Anywho, thanks for listening. I am the voice of 91 Reasons. I am Jeff Tucker. And like I just said, this show is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
Well, I got to tell you, I'd be very, very careful who you talk to about that, because the person who wrote that is dangerous. And this button-down Oxford cloth psycho might just snap and then stalk from office to office with an Armalite AR-10 carbine gas-powered semi-automatic weapon, pumping round after round into colleagues and coworkers. This might be someone you've known for years, someone very, very close to you. Tyler's words coming out of my mouth. And I used to be such a nice guy. Or maybe you shouldn't bring me every little piece of trash you happen to pick up. Would you excuse me? I need to take this.
This theater has been equipped with multiple emergency exits. They should be clearly illuminated at all times. In the unlikely event of a fire, please make your way through these exits in a calm and orderly fashion. Thank you. Did you know that urine is sterile? That's right. You can drink it.